All right, the next thing to do is to actually fracture your drawing however you had it planned in your sketchbook. And just remember, it's going to take several lines. This is a much bigger space, so think about the area that you're having to create that gradual change in value. I don't do anything really dark, so still using a light line. So I want to break up these big shapes. I'm breaking them up into smaller shapes. So if you were doing like radiating lines, if you chose to do, so here it's almost like sun rays kind of, and then like this, or I would stay away from doing parallel lines. That's just me. I don't think you won't get as much movement when you start shading in. But however if it was just sort of arbitrary, they don't have to be a pattern. But the main thing, look as you're putting your ruler down to draw your lines, look at what you're breaking up. Before you draw that line, look where it's crossing, because you don't want to create too many teeny tiny spaces because it's going to take you forever. So if you have any tiny details in here, just know that when you break it up with your lines, you're going to have really small spaces that you have to shade. On the other hand, you don't want really big spaces either. The bigger the space, the trickier it will be to get a long, nice, smooth gradient. It is harder the further your pencil has to go. So I want to just break these up. Again, I'm kind of looking before I pass through, looking at the space that I'm breaking up. Stop and kind of look where you have big shapes and just start breaking up. I put on I think most of mine I've probably used at least 15 lines or so, I would say, because you don't want any big huge spaces like this, especially that's really big. So I want to break that up. It's okay if you have some small spaces. You may have some that are almost not even a gradation by the time you finish. I have some that I did that are pretty dark, like the whole triangle is really dark because it was hard to get these two to create that line the right value. So I'm just breaking this. And just kind of work your way through. You still have like a really big shape here. Oh, that created a really small one. So like if you do this lightly and you do a line, it's like, ooh, that's not gonna look good. You can always erase it, but I would just kind of go with it. And just do a double take before you start doing anything else. Make sure that you don't have any really big spaces. If you need to go in a different direction, you want a good balance around. Okay, now at this point, if you, in your sketch, if you marked off areas that you're going to do in color, if it doesn't follow a line that's already here. So for instance, on this one, I drew out the mushrooms and broke it down, but then I want this area, this shape, to be in color. If you have a shape that's not already here that you're doing in color, go ahead and draw that in. So if I wanted to emphasize this area right here, try different shapes. You could do squares or whatever. I just thought about raindrops, so I did like a raindrop shape. but you want to go ahead and draw that in. If this is going to be in color and I don't want it fractured, then I would need to come in and remove those lines. So the only thing I'm seeing inside of that teardrop is what you want, the lines that you're going to color between. Okay. You really don't want to overdo. I want you to use a mixture of graphite and color if you want color. You can do the whole thing in graphite if you want, but don't. You really got to think out the colors if you're trying to emphasize something. So you could do, usually there's a rule of 3 in art. If I wanted to do like 3 different areas that I want to do in color, then I could kind of draw out more than one, or you could just have one that's kind of balanced, a little bit larger, that you do in color. That's kind of all up to you and your plan. All right, that's how you fracture it.